I got an interesting custom order for some corn broom needles. Now, these are the needles that you would use to weave together corn strands to make corn brooms. I thought this was a pretty interesting project, so I decided to give it a go. I didn't have any stock to make these, because this isn't the kind of thing that I make, usually doing chef's knives, but I had some mild steel round bar I thought would be good to resize. So I started out with forging that and getting it to the right size to make some corn broom needles. Now, these needles are supposed to be about 7 to 8 inches long, pretty rigid and wide needles, wide flat needles. And I'm going to forge in a little bit of a taper to help with weaving through the stiff corn fibers. I'm pretty excited to try out this project. It's fun to try some stuff out that's not forging chef's knives all the time. I've forged a lot of knives, and it's fun getting cool different projects every now and again. Most of the heavy forging work for these are in the resizing of the stock. Forging out the taper and the needles. There's some fine forging that goes into that. Similar to some similarities to forging out a knife, but the heavy forging work is all just resizing the stock here. It'd save a lot of time if I had the right size stock to begin with. I'm aiming to resize this stock to about 3/4 of an inch by 3/16 of an inch. I didn't really plan this out before, but that's just kind of the idea in my head as I was forging it, of thickness and how wide I wanted it to be to forge the broom needles out of. Now, once I cut the pieces of this stock, I'm aiming to cut 5-inch pieces and forge those out to the 7 to 8 inch broom needles. For the forging here, I'm using my 5-pound dog's head hammer. This is primarily a bladesmithing hammer, but it's heavyweight and it can move a lot of material really quickly, so it's good for resizing this stock as well. Plus, these broom needles are pretty similar to a blade, thin, pointy things. Now, I also switch between my 2-pound farrier's hammer and my lighter 3-pound dog's head for forging, just depending on how hard I want to be hitting and what kind of forging I want to be doing. It's just whatever hammer I'm comfortable with for each section. I really like this big heavy hammer, but I've had a few issues with it. The steel wedges shot out of it one time, and when I was replacing them, I got a bunch of super glue in my eyes. It just sprayed right in my eyes, and that was really annoying. So yeah, always remember to wear your safety glasses, even when it's hard to see, and don't get super glue in your eyes. I've never seen one of these needles in person, and I'd never heard of one really until I got this order. But from the little bit of research I did, they just have to be roughly flat, sturdy needles, 7 to 8 inches. I don't know if there's a exact perfect geometry for them, but I'm just doing the best I can with a little bit of research, and I think they should work really well. Hopefully they'll work really well. I love forging in tapers like this, and it's also quite a treat to work on nice material that moves like this. Well, the material that I use for all my knives is very, very nice, but it definitely doesn't quite move as easily as this, and it shouldn't, as it has a lot more wear-resistant carbides and stuff in it that don't want to move as much, but yeah, I mean, mild steel versus fancy new alloys of carbon steel for kitchen knives. Another one of the big differences between the high carbon kitchen knife steels and this is the temperature range of forging. This does not air harden at all, it's low carbon, so I can continue forging this as it gets quite cold without the risk of cracking. And I mean, there can be some risk of cracking still, but compared to the carbon steels, it's way more maneuverable, and you can hit this soft quite a bit before you can hit this cold quite a bit before you have to worry about a crack. Forge this out, I keep in mind to forge it out symmetrically and keeping this point in the middle, because I feel like that'll be an important thing for a weaving needle. And I plan later I'm going to forge this roughly to shape, pretty close to shape, and then grind the edges off and chamfer them, because I want it to be smooth to get through those corn fibers without snagging on anything, so I'm not going to leave the bumpy texture of the edges. I mean, you can forge it pretty smooth too, but I think grinding it and then later wire wheeling it will get a nicer finish for doing the actual weaving. I really enjoy with my work that I get to go through the design process and visualize what I'm going to make and then create that thing. It's always fun going through that process and thinking of what you want to make, what the goal of what you make is going to be, how you can make the design to do that well, if you can make any improvements to that design, and then actually forging it out, making it how you want it to be. I haven't made a YouTube video for quite a while, and for this one I wanted to do something a little bit different. Usually I'm cutting down my clips more and switching things up faster, but for this one I wanted to do a little bit slower, more chill video, so I'm doing full heat, like video of the full heat, and then just cutting out the time in the forge, and then I'll also cut out the footage of me forging the other two, because I don't need to show me forging the same thing 3 times. Now is onto the grinder. Here I'm fine-tuning the profile, making sure it comes to a point, that the point is in the center. And then I'm just going to take the material off the sides to add the chamfers, and then make it a little bit point. I don't want this to be a really sharp needle. I don't need it to pierce through the fibers, but I want it to be able to go around them and weave between them easily. So I chamfered it to a rough point, but it's not crazy sharp. Now I also need an eye of this needle to pull whatever fiber you're weaving through the corn to fasten it all together. So after grinding this out, I need to drill a hole in the back. Also very important to break the corners of these holes so they're not super sharp. Don't want to have something wearing through your thread while you're trying to weave a nice broom. After grinding the sides and drilling the holes, all of those spots are shiny bare steel. Now, I want them to have the forge finish all around to make them a little more rustic, and also so my beeswax finish that I'm going to put on at the end will stick to it well. So I'm just going to I put them in the forge to give them some heat, and so they develop that oxidized layer. Now what I'm doing here is I'm straightening them out and giving them a little bit of work hardness for more rigidity so they work better. This is mild steel, so I'm not hardening it, I'm not quenching it in water, so this work hardening is what I'm doing to make it a little more solid and won't bend as easily. Once they're nice and straight, it's off to wire wheeling to get them nice and smooth, so there's no snagging while you're doing your weaving. Now they're just about done. Just heating it up with this torch to melt in some beeswax. This was a super fun project, and I'm really glad I gave it a go. It was fun to make something new, fun to forge a different shape, do some different work with different material, and I enjoyed the process. Thanks for the order, and thank you everyone for watching the video.